So what would you do for something that you valued a lot? What would you give for it? What would you sacrifice? I always think of a little speech between Hamlet and Laertes. They were talking about Ophelia. And Hamlet said, "What wouldst thou do? Wouldst weep? Wouldst fast? Wouldst eat a crocodile? I'd do it." So if there was something you really wanted, that you really liked, what would you do? Wouldst weep? Wouldst fast? Would eat a crocodile? Well, I'm here to tell you that some people, when they really want something, they're willing to go to extraordinary lengths. They are. A few years ago, I got up in the morning and I was out the door so fast because it must have been January, probably the time of New Year's resolutions, right? And I had resolutions. I had a long to-do list. Nothing big, but a whole lot of little things. Things like pick up the library books that were on hold at the library, drop my shoes off at the shoe repair, pick up some cleaning, go to the store and return a shirt, things like that. And I was checking them off so efficiently. But when I dropped my shoes off at the shoe repair, well, the shoe repair place is just a couple of doors down from Trader Joe's. And you always need something at Trader Joe's, right? So I went in, I bought a few groceries, and I bought a little package of chocolates, my favorite at the time, Ghirardelli mint discs, $1.69, a bargain for that much happiness, really. And so I took everything back out to my car, and I headed for the mall, but I must admit that I opened the bag of chocolates and ate one or two or three because I figured I needed the energy. I had a lot of things to do. So when I got to the mall, I parked in the parking structure, and then I walked into the department store. It was Robinson's, so you can tell that this has been a few years ago. Now, you can get lost at the mall, totally distracted, right? There's lots to see, lots to do, but I had my list, and I had my resolution. And so I walked into the store, I returned the shirt, and I walked right back out, right past all those racks that said up to 80% off, past those things that said new spring fashions, right past it all, back out to my car. And when I got back out to my car, I saw immediately that there was something wrong. The door was open. I was pretty sure I'd closed it. I'm absent-minded, but not that absent-minded. And I looked in, it was clear that someone had broken into my car. It was a mess. More of a mess than usual. A lot more. The glove compartment was open and the papers were all strewn around. My groceries from Trader Joe's were spread out on the back seat. I had several bags and their contents had been dumped out. And I thought, oh, that's crazy. I have nothing worth stealing here. They didn't even steal the radio. Not that it was worth stealing, but they hadn't touched any of that. So I began to put the things back in the glove compartment and the things back in their bags, and I looked around, and then it occurred to me what the thief who had broken into my car had stolen. And the only thing that thief had stolen was my bag of chocolate. It was open. It cost $1.69. I could not believe it. I like chocolate as much as most people, more than some people. But I will tell you, I have never broken into someone's car to get my chocolate. Never. I pay for my chocolate. Well, I went home. I was pretty discouraged about that. I told my husband about it. I said, can you even believe that? And you would think that would be the end of the story. But it's not quite the end. Because 2 weeks later, I was sound asleep. It was 6 a.m, and the phone rang. I picked it up and cleared my throat and said, oh, hello? And a deep male voice said, is this Marilyn McPhee? I said, yes. He said, well, we've got your chocolate. I said, you've got my chocolate? Now, I recently talked with my husband about this, and I was thinking, they're holding my chocolate hostage. But later, really, why would anyone do that? He was thinking, oh, those good police, they have recovered her chocolate and would like to give it back to her. Anyway, he said, we've got your chocolate. And I said, you've got my chocolate? He said, yes, we've got your chocolate. And I said, you've got my chocolate? He said, yes, we've got your chocolate. I could see that this could take a long time. He said, we've got your chocolate and your family photos. You've got my chocolate, my family photo. Who is this? He said, well, this is Ranger Miller down in the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll be right there. So I jumped, it was my chocolate. So I jumped out of bed, I threw on my clothes, and I headed for the door. And my husband, who was still in bed, said, where are you going? Who was that? And I said, oh, I'll just be gone for a minute. I'll tell you about it later. They got my chocolate. He said, what? I said, I'll tell you about it later. And I got in my car, and I drove down the hill. It's not far from my house to the preserve. And I pulled into the parking lot. The parking lot was deserted. Of course it was deserted. It was 6 a.m. Well, there was one pickup truck. And you would have thought that maybe, being awake by that time, that I would have thought this was something very suspicious, and perhaps I would have just, gone home in the interest of safety and all. But no, it was chocolate. So I got out of my car and I walked up to the door. They posted the hours that they were open. It did not include 6 a.m. And maybe you would have thought then I would have gone back home. But no, I pushed on the door. It was open. And I walked in and there was no one there. Of course there was no one there. There was a customer service counter on the side, but no one was behind the counter. So, being bold, again, and foolish, and I called out, hello, is anybody there? And a man came out of a back room. Now, he was dressed in a ranger uniform, and that did make me feel a little bit better. He said, ma'am, we are closed. And I said, well, yes, I understand that, but I believe you just called me. I'm Marilyn McPhee? He said, oh, yes. And he reached into a desk drawer and brought out a large manila envelope. He said, is this yours? I looked at it. There was my name and address. I said, yes, apparently. See, there's my name and address. He said, well, were you missing this? I said, not that I know of. He said, well, you better check and make sure it's yours. I thought, my name is on it. It's mine. But I opened it up and I dumped it out, and it was pictures. I said, oh, yes, the family photos from my family reunion a couple of months ago. I'd ordered pictures, but I didn't know that they were missing because I never got them. He said, they're yours? And I said, yes, see, there's me. They're in the back row, you see? He said, well, all right then. And he went to go back in the back room, and I said, you said something about chocolate. He said, oh, yes. And he said, follow me. And so I followed him out to the parking lot, and there in the bed of the pickup truck were about a dozen packages, brown paper wrap packages, and the return address was a chocolate company in the Midwest. He said, are these yours? And I said, where'd you get all this? And he said, well, somebody robbed a FedEx truck, and I guess they took what they wanted, and whatever they didn't want, they just left on a table in the preserve. I thought, they didn't want chocolate? That's bizarre, because I know for a fact that people break into cars for chocolate. But he said, are these yours? And I said, no, see, look, that's not my name on there. Looks like these have been sent to a woman named Shirley. She apparently lives in Scripps Ranch. He said, then they're not yours. I said, no, but I think you should try to track down this Shirley person. It looks to me like she's got a big baking project going on. He said, well then. I said, well, thanks for the pictures. And I got back in my car and drove home. By this time, my husband was dressed and he was headed for work. And he said, what was that anyway? And I said, oh, I'll tell you later. I've got a whole lot of stuff to do today. And it was true. I had a really long to-do list. I had to take those books back to the library. I had to pick up my shoes at the shoe repair. And the shoe repair is just a couple of doors down from Trader Joe's. So I just went in and bought myself another package of chocolate. I figured I deserved it. That's a story, true, that I call, We Got Your Chocolate. I could hardly believe that myself.